episode number 95, where you're joining myself, Chris, your host for the day, alongside the ever-present man of many pixels, and this week with a very special guest, one Clive Illenden, aka Lord Kensal himself, aka the Brickman. I'm going to call you the Brickman because I know you used to work for Lego.
Yeah.
Join us this week as our special guest for what is the longest running Stadia podcast this side of Google Maps. We're a little bit ahead of you, Clive, just a little bit.
You are.
For a Monday night show, which we're going to talk about, actually, because I'm really intrigued. And as with all guests on shows, we like to do a bit of a deep dive into who you are, where you came from. Because you are here for all the Stadia and gaming news rounded up for the Sounds of Stadia podcast. We've got a great show for you this week. In Tobbs' absence, of course, we've got some special guests. Clive is here with us today, and he's going to be here for our SideQuest episode 2. We're going to be talking about an entire breakdown of the Google Developer Summit that happened this week. Lots of juicy details to get our teeth into from the business lens of things. We've got some breaking news that happened literally just before we went live to record, gentlemen, around Extraction and Riders Republic, two big tentpole games heading for Stadia not as soon as we'd hoped. And we've got also some new games being rated and some news about EA's upcoming EA Play event slated for this coming Thursday. But before we do dive into all that, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hit that bell so you are kept in the loop with all things Sounds of Stadia, like our live streams, like our Let's Play series, and like our SideQuest episodes, which our members, which of Clive is one of them, thank you very much for your support on that as well, get lovely stickers next to their name. They get...
hit the join button.
Somewhere down there. It's around here somewhere. Yeah. And stickers, badges next to your name, and 6 days early access to that SideQuest episode. So if you can't wait for Friday, you just can't wait, like for the weekend, like most of us can't, you get it up to 6 days early by clicking join below on the YouTube video. Don't forget, if you are watching on YouTube, you can also check us out on podcast services everywhere in the digital cloud. We're available on all major supported platforms. Go check that out. But before we get into all of the news for the week, Clive, you are our honoured guest this week. Thank you very much for taking some time this Friday evening to join us. Of course, you are a massive Stadia content creator in the world of the cloud. You've been on many, many shows. You've run many, many shows. You've done collaborations across the board. You've been one of the most ever-present creators for Stadia since we began. You're always there. I can't think of a time where you weren't on our Twitter feeds and out there in the social space. So, to people who somehow don't know who you are, would you like to tell a little bit about who you are, where'd you come from?
I still find that shocking, but that's just me. People don't know who I am, and there's part of me that goes how, but
it might be the two personalities confusing people.
I don't know who I am.
There might genuinely be someone out there, Clive, who thinks you are not that other person, like an evil twin kind of deal.
Yeah, well, I'm not. But
exactly. Who knows?
This old Kensal guy reminds me of Clive.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're different chalk and cheese. I tell you. Yeah.
We'll have to get him on the show at one point in the future.
Oh God, no. So like many people in the community, came into Stadia early on, founder, very excited about it, and looking for like-minded people, as often the case, but almost actually more driven to find like-minded people, because right from the early doors you were reading, Stadia doesn't work, it's got latency, it's got lag, and you're sitting there going,
no, it doesn't.
Not on my watch. It's amazing. It surpassed everything I expected it to do. I have, my existing YouTube channel is a sort of tech, gaming and lifestyle channel, as I call it. And I did a review of what was then Project xCloud months before Stadia was launched. And it was interesting, but it was clearly not quite the same as, gaming on your console and that kind of stuff, which is where I come from, having an Xbox. So I'm judging it not on my eSport gaming PC, that I use when I'm playing, CS:GO at championship level. Yeah, right. Not that level, but on your bog standard, I play an Xbox on my TV kind of standard, a casual gamer, well into his Xbox. It didn't feel as good as that. And with Stadia, I had high hopes that they would do something slightly better in terms of that experience. And as soon as I fired up Destiny 2, straight away, my experience with Destiny 2 was better on Stadia than my experience of Destiny 2 on Xbox One. And that's the thing. It's not like, it's not quite the same. It's not 4K. It's 4K. It's not as good as PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X, which didn't exist then.
Yeah.
The majority of people, casual gamers experience, if you're talking about console players, are the 100-odd million, 150-odd million PlayStation 4 players and the 50 to 100 million odd, Xbox players. And is it comparable to that? And yes, it was straight out the box for me. And so like many, people within the community, I think we, looked around and then you just saw these sort of people who had a different experience, and that got kind of amplified. And I just thought, well, that's not quite right. And then you started watching, I was watching, people, Stadia cast as was, became Nerd Nest and Cloud Gaming Extreme and stuff like that. And then you guys started, and then some other guy kind of started, and I just thought, I want to do something. And then I just thought, some people are just talking. I can do that. Man, I'm born to do that. Come on. So I just, thought I'm going to do I picked the day that nobody seemed to be doing anything. And I thought, right, I'm going to be doing the Stadia Monday Night Chat. And I had this vision that this would be like. It's just like a radio sort of chat show thing. And just bring my skills, as it were, to bear on that kind of thing, because I love to chat, I love to talk, and if I'm passionate about something, it's difficult to shut me up about it. So I thought I could do that, so like lots of people were doing it, I just thought I'll do that, and the rest is kind of history. So every Monday night 10 p.m. UK time, Stadia Monday Night Chat.
I do want to give a quick shout. You mentioned FIFA there, Clive. There is, if you follow on Twitter, there's Regnum Stadia, which is a Spanish Stadia channel, so a lot of our viewers may not be aware of it. They're actually running a FIFA competition at the moment, possibly off the back of the Euros. I don't speak Spanish, unfortunately, so I wasn't able to look too much into it, but if you follow that, it's REGNUM Stadia on Twitter. They've got a full competition pinned to the top, and they reached out to us and said if we do a little shout out. So you mentioned FIFA, it brought it to life for me. But gentlemen, I think it's about time we did delve into the chunk of the show, because like we said, surprisingly large amount of news this week, all things considered. Only one blog this week, but that won't stop us. But before we do jump into the news, Clive, we do a fun little thing here while Tom is away on paternity leave and he's waiting for the expected child to come along and show up any day now. I've been told any day now. We like to pester him on a Monday morning with some hashtags. So you can pick the hashtag for all of our followers to tweet at Tom on Monday morning when this podcast goes live. Anything you want. It can be random, it can be factual, it could be your name. Just for people to tweet at Tom so he wakes up and goes, there they go again. Because we like to wind him up when he's not here.
Yeah.
Hashtag stalk has arrived.
Stalk has
there you go.
Right.
Oh, I thought you said stalker.
Oh, stalk. Stalk.
I mean, in a way, people are stalking them. That's what social media has a big negative light about. But stalk has arrived, Richie. You got to note it down. People out there watching, listening along, do what you need to do. Send them some gifts.
Hashtag
stalk has arrived. There's got to be gifts of like cartoons from like the early 1900s.
Yeah, those 50s and stuff. But here comes a baby.
Weird, yeah, so weird.
The funny thing about this hashtag thing is, I know for a fact he actually watches the show because he called us out after the first time we did this.
Yeah, but we can
but we're still going to do it.
Too late.
That doesn't stop us winding them up. Right, plenty of news, gents. Plenty of juicy news to get into. Again, I said I'm glad we've got Clive on the show to dig into all this Google Games Developers Summit. But before we do that, Clive, we would like you to introduce to us the...
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to super sexy special Stadia Stories segment, aka
the news. And it's a juicy week of news. Like we said, we've got plenty of stories spanning from EA, Star Wars, developer stories, games that have been delayed out of nowhere, even though they were only dated like a month or so ago, it feels like. But we'll get into all that. And I wanted to start off this week by talking about the Google for Games Developer Summit that happened just this past day. We got loads of news out of it. Not all of it necessarily gaming news, but I think it does pertain very much to what we talk about on a weekly basis. So to kick things off with that, I've bullet pointed a couple of the things. If you've watched the videos over on YouTube that they put out on the Google for Games channel, you probably know bits and pieces. But to start things off, they came out and reiterated that Stadia has offered over 180 games. They basically shouted about their catalogue, their library, and then they made a point of addressing the over 100 million devices as an endpoint to their platform. And what they're basically saying is with the rollout of smart TVs, the new Chromecast with Google TV now having Stadia Live, and amongst PC, mobile, Chromebook, all of that other stuff, I think they really just wanted to highlight how many damn places you can play Google Stadia with minimum barrier to entry. So, Richie, I'll throw it over to you for this. I think we'll go through just the bullet points and just have a quick chat about it. They're really just kind of swinging their energy around with that statement. That's huge. That's more, I think, Clive, you might have covered it on Monday. That's more consoles than has ever collectively been sold, I think, across all fronts.
It's amazing. It's like, I mean, I do bounce between playing Stadia. Now I've got to raise a key sheet for a reasonable price. Mm-hmm. I do bounce between my phone, bounce between my PC, bounce between my living room on this Chromecast with Google TV, which needs to rebrand, make that easier to say. But it's fantastic. I can be playing on my phone, and I'll decide to come up here, and I'll just pick up exactly where I left off. Then I'll go downstairs, back in front of the TV. I don't have enough good things to say about it. It's how gaming should be. It's easy. I can play it wherever I want to play it, whenever I want to play it there.
Absolutely seamless, isn't it? Like, I think we're spoiled.
Yeah.
I think we're, like, the three of us, and I know a lot of our audience as well, I think we're so desensitized now. The last time I turned on my PS5, it had a firmware update, and I think one of the games needed an update, and every single time I get caught out and I forget, and then I have to sit there and stare at a loading screen for 30, 40 plus minutes. And I have decent internet, and yet it's still... every single time it catches me, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, that's a thing that has to happen. And
yeah, like anecdotal. So my daughter wanted to play, a game, and she hasn't played for ages, and she was bored, and so she said to her brother, "Okay, what's a good, I hate FPSs, but let's play what's a good FPS?" And he said, "Oh, why don't you play so and so?" So I've got two Xboxes, so she had to download. She had to say, "Okay, let's do that," and so they had to download whatever it is they chose.
Crazy. But
half an hour later, they'd gone. They'd gone off.
Yeah.
Do something else. The moment, I was thinking, this is a beautiful moment. My daughter's finally back into gaming, and she wants to play with her younger brother. This is amazing. They used to play all the time, and then they drifted apart. Now they're coming to this. What a beautiful gone. Because we're waiting for download. Now, it's just anecdotal, but the point is, it is that frustration that we just take it for damn granted, and it's like once you've had silk. Mm-hmm. You can't go back. Cotton will never do.
Especially if you only have, say, an hour or two to play a game in between because you got a busy life. You don't want to spend your first 45 minutes just installing the game. FIFA is a really good example of a game that casual gamers might play. Them maybe you're only interested in playing FIFA every year. Yeah. You want to play for £150 for a console when you could pay about £50 for a controller, and you get the same performance.
And there are people who do exactly that.
The fact that FIFA 22 comes out day and day, if they get some kind of ideal promotion, they drop an ad after the Champions League game or the Open and Premier League games. It's on the billboards, and then again, we've lambasted the lack of marketing for Stadia for many, many months now, and how they really don't push themselves in a physical sense. They're not on billboards, they're not on bus stops, there's nothing like that. And I think if they really just start to crank out that promotion with something as big and as global as FIFA, it's always in the top 10 selling games in Europe. It's huge football, we can't deny that. And the hunger for it is always there. And 100 million devices in and amongst a library of 180 other games. I think it honestly is just a matter of time, and that barrier to entry, it's not going to go up at any time. It is literally, you've got a Gmail account, sign in, get your 3 months pro trial, and you're away. And I think once those barriers start to come down, and that new generation we mentioned right at the beginning of the show starts to come through, little Timmy, who's just finished school and stuff, doesn't care. He just wants to play FIFA. And if he can do that on the old crappy phone he's already got, then that's a win. Saves mum and dad money. He gets to play the games he wants without having to wait for Christmas.
He came down to me, can I get FIFA on Xbox? And I went, I've got FIFA on, because he plays on Xbox. I said, I've got FIFA on Stadia. He goes, have you? I went, yeah. Why don't you play it on that? You're not playing with your mates, are you? You know, cross-play would be nice. But he said, no, I'm just learning to play. I just want to play FIFA. And then, so he played a few games, and then he came and asked the game, can I play? And I said, I'll tell you what, since I've got 3 Premier Editions...
He's a controller. Off you go.
Yeah, I said to him, I'll tell you what, in your gaming room, you know, shall I set this up? And he was in, what, can you... I'll go, yeah, I'll do it now. We set up there, you know, and 10 minutes later, now he's got Stadia set up, you know, in his gaming room alongside his Xbox and everything else. And the irony was, like, because it was, you know, I'll turn you off the show, but he was in hospital this week having his appendix. And so his mum, as a treat, because at his mum's house, he just has Switch. Mm-hmm. So as a treat, his mum bought him FIFA.
Oh, on the Switch.
On the Switch.
So he Legacy Edition.
Yeah,
you should have just sent them around with a Premier Edition. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking, I should have bought my controller in.
There'll be another promotion at some point. Well, I'll get another free one.
Yeah, well, we didn't touch on it last week, but the FIFA 22 for Switch is another Legacy Edition where it's just the same build from, well, pretty much the same build from 2 iterations now, just with a roster change and a kit change. Yeah. And that's the big thing. Like, my Kishi
they can't push it any further, can they?
100%. Yeah. And my Kishi and my phone are essentially just playing next-gen FIFA in the exact same format as a Switch. And it's crazy. Yeah. So that was just one thing, gents. That was the first thing they mentioned. Secondly, they reiterated their Pro partners. Apparently, our players love Stadia Pro. So they went through that. They continued about talking about their leverage with some of the promotions. They kind of... again, Google has a lot of leverage elsewhere, outside of game. Like, in fact, they've got more leverage, I'd argue, elsewhere than they do within the gaming industry. They've done a lot of relationships with like the tech partners, Asus, One, Oppo, all these contracts and deals you see all over the place. But then back to what you said, Clive, they then lead into changing things up for Pro and going into more business financials. And they showcase that their developers essentially get 70% of the subscription revenue from Pro titles. So they're trying to essentially entice people in by giving them a bigger chunk of the revenue pie. And I think it was 70% of Pro, correct me if I'm wrong, and then they're also increasing the share of transactional revenue up to 85%, up to the first 3 million, which is bigger than any other competitors out there. Any other platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, they don't give developers back that slice, that larger slice of the pie. So from a monetary standpoint, as a developer looking at it, and you said there, Clive, crunching the numbers, they're making this pie as sweet and tasty as possible to entice people in. And as a gamer, that's what I want to see them doing, encouraging people to come to this platform.
And also it's not just about encouraging, to a certain degree, it's not just about encouraging them to come to the platform. It's specifically encouraging them to consider being part of Pro. Mm-hmm. And that's the interesting thing, because they have, Stadia have talked explicitly about how they want to build out Pro. You know, we already know how many games are on Pro now, 80 plus, something like that games. And, you know, if you continue to subscribe, that's only going to get bigger. And, you know, this argument that somehow, you know, Games Pass has all these titles, well, that gap will narrow. Xbox will always add more titles than they're taking away. But the net addition, you know, is arguably may well be slower than, you know, when you factor in the games taken off and the games coming on. It may be adding games to Xbox, but it may be in a smaller number than, you know, Stadia does. And over time, when you look at your library, you're going, wow, I've got like, you know, by the end of the year, you're going to have 100 plus. If you've been you know, from the beginning. And I did a thing where I think it's on Inled's site.
Yeah, we use that
as
a
database. We did a SideQuest on that. You've got like nearly 2.6K to $2,500 worth of value.
Oh yeah, his value calculators
it's like it's but that value is only going up.
Yeah,
it doesn't sort of stay stagnant. It's constantly going up.
As of now, the net value based on US dollars is $2,332, which is 2,300 average of $25.91 per game.
Yeah, and you're getting 2 to 3, maybe 3, 4, sometimes 4 a month.
That 70% of the subscription thing is very interesting to me. That basically means the developers of my money that I pay every month for Stadia Pro, 70% of that money is going to developers, and the split is based on what games are getting played as that on the pro membership.
Yeah.
I think developers, depending on how well they think the game could do, could go two ways. If they think the game is going to land really well, they can go, we could clean up here. But if you have a bit more apprehension about, we're not sure if people are going to like this, you might, maybe they get surprised with a bigger cut than expecting. It really depends.
Yeah, well, it's interesting how, again, very business focused. That's what these summits are. And they kind of just went through the motions of covering, I'd imagine, a lot of pushback they've had as they got into this industry and everything they've dealt with over the last 2 years. And they made a point of actually addressing in the cast about, they've took all the feedback on board. They're well aware of the issues with X, Y, Z, and they've addressed them. Yeah. And again, they've always said they're ever growing. And as it pushes on, the next point they mentioned was increased share revenue via click to play. They mentioned the click to play links and marketing that, which again ties into future business plans and relationships. Clive
actually pushed analytics around that as well. So when people using the click to play links, you can see where the developers can see where these click to play links are. Which gives them that's fantastic for their marketing teams.
Yeah,
it works both ways, because you're getting the publisher to basically market the game for you. So market Stadia for you.
I love click to play. I use click to play all the time, and pretty much every single one of our Thursday night live streams, I'm always dropping links into the chat. So come join us. Here's the link. Yeah, one click and you're in with us.
Well, that's the big message to try to get across. And if you want to market your game, that link will transcend everything, all social media, text messages, Word documents, Microsoft Excel 95, everything. As long as you just copy and paste that link, you can push your content anywhere, and that link takes you right to that storefront to play your game. That's magic in the world of marketing.
Because they said they were, they were so they're at the processes of finalising the sort of, the background of it, the actual. So it is a specific. It's not like a standard click to link. It's a sort of built-in referral link. Everybody knows what referral links are specifically. There's built-in code which is specific to that publisher or developer, whatever, that can track that data, and the data is valuable, as you say, to the publisher as well.
That's Google's bread and butter.
If there's a link, you can turn a link into a QR code. You could put up a poster physically in a space and go, scan this to get playing right now.
Yeah.
Maybe in a game, a GameStop.
There you go.
The aisle at the end.
There's a free marketing idea for you guys.
Yeah, imagine you, like you said, you're sitting on a bus and you drive past a massive FIFA 22 poster.
And you just go,
play it out.
And there's a QR code and the bus pulls up at the bus stop and you're like, stum. And you're literally playing FIFA, even if you haven't got Stadia, you're still literally playing FIFA within a minute.
Yeah.
If you just sign up
you're playing FIFA on your commute home, then you get home, go, I want to play on the telly, go, put that down, pick my controller, and now I'm playing on my telly.
Yeah.
Done.
It's sort of like
potentially. You leave it up to the imagination of the publishers and developers, and
get crazy with it.
Their marketing kind of
get crazy. We actually saw. I don't know if you two saw on Twitter this week. Jem, shout out to Jem, posted about a Hitman marketing campaign where he would walk around with the QR code tattooed on the back of his head, and people would scan his head and to take them direct to the game. It's the same theory. You can just plaster these things all over the place. So that was another great point. They really did focus on just affiliate program and the relationships they're looking to build with these publishers and developers, because like the reality is, rewind 3-4 years, is Google didn't have a stake in this industry. Fly in the room. And now they do, and they need to build these relationships. And this is what they use GDC for. All the conversations in the background. Obviously, COVID hasn't helped that. We did a full SideQuest episode about saying how the impact on not being able to take Stadia on the move for journalists and games media, because they've all been locked down. They've not really had a chance to put it through its paces. They've not been able to test it up on a mountaintop and on the train and all these other places that would have otherwise raved about using a Nintendo Switch. They've all been in the houses, like we all have, and Stadia wasn't really designed for just in the house. It was designed for everywhere and anywhere. So
it's also just the networking that happens at these sort of events between like you might be a games developer who happens to be in the same hotel as someone who works for Google, and you end up talking to them over the bar. Things like that do happen.
Yeah,
it's crazy. They then moved.
It's interesting if you follow the plot so far, though, in this presentation. This is what makes such a good presentation. The first one was the what. Yeah. What is Stadia? Here are all the reasons. why Stadia, here's what Stadia is, how many places it is. The next is why, right? But from a business point of view, why you should come Stadia. That will incentivize you to come to Stadia. And then the next bit, which we're just going to, is the how.
Great segue. Yeah. Then they moved on to development and testing and certification being way, way easier. They showcased the tools for testing your game and how easy and very, very Google laid out. I don't know about how you two thought about it, but the layout was very much almost like a Google Drive doc, where I feel like the devs can just pull it up in the cloud, edit the game, amend their game, do what they need to do, and then it's just there in perpetuity. It exists. They don't have to do separate builds. They went on to discuss a little bit more detail about certification and how they don't need to jump through as many hoops to get the game certified. They mentioned you can have multiple certifications going at once. So essentially, if you've got one build of the game, you can send that off to get checked, and in the meantime, you can keep working away on it because it's all saved in the cloud. I think through lockdown, they've actually a few very small articles I've read have actually praised Stadia for being one of the places they've been able to work on the game from home.
I think Destiny 2.
Without, that's it, Bungie,
Yeah, back in the day.
Without having to drag the computers from the office because all the power is done up there in the cloud.
In the cloud, yeah.
So
if you think that all these development certification tools, anything that's making the games easier to port, which is some of the API stuff with Vulkan and DirectX, all that is actually is fantastic for the end user. Because anything that streamlines games getting ported onto the Stadia means that process is then cheaper and therefore more likely to happen.
Exactly. So, and also, it's also shown, Stadia's clearly listened to the feedback.
Yeah.
So they, as I said, they announced back in February, this is what we're going to be doing, working with our partners. And part of working with your partners is saying, okay, what's the problem?
How can we make your life easier?
How can we make your life easier? Well, we'd be better if the business model, for us was more, worked out. Okay, so they went away and they've clearly worked on that, right? And they've come up with a solution that they think incentivized from a business point of view. What's the other problem? Well, it's a bit of a steep learning curve to get games, and that requires effort and time equals money, and then in return on the investment, which was the bit we've just addressed and kind of stuff. So okay. Right. Well, what if we make it easier? But where are the pinch points?
Yeah.
And they've done their, they're, as you said before, they're a data company. They've done their research. They've got their feedback, and they said, okay, how do we smooth that out? How do we take those links, the chains, the pinch points and the links in the chain, which are slowing things down? Oddly enough, exactly how they kind of solved the latency issue. Where are the pinch points? Can we reduce those? They're doing exactly the same here with the tech to make it as easy as possible. So that investment decision to port your game or to develop a game in parallel for Stadia is made easier for you. And then you add in the fact that the business model for you is also incentivizing, and then you add in the potential of what the future offers in terms of currently there are 100 million plus endpoints. This cake, this pie is looking kind of tasty.
It is. Well, funnily you say that, because for me, they wrapped it all up, as we will in a moment. The end of it, the kind of cherry on the top of the pile almost, was the references to the Unity engine, the Unreal Engine. You mentioned it there, Richie, with the Vulkan processing, and essentially making the passage to entry to port your game across the Stadia requires the least fiddling around ever. And they've got a specific Stadia porting toolkit, it was called, to bring those games across. So they came out and essentially said, if you've got a Microsoft game, don't worry about making a totally different iteration. Your DirectX, your Vulkan setup will just port across with the least effort as we can physically make possible for you. And to developers looking at possibly having a library of existing games that date back several years, like we've seen, I want Stadia's library to be as big as possible. I want it to reach back into the ether and grab out amazing titles from yesteryear. And this kind of thing just makes that easier. And I think that was a great way to round the show and go, right, there's
and that probably clearly is major feedback that they had. The trouble is, you Linux, and it's a bit, we don't have the expertise here or whatever. Like we've always, I know we're a bit in the dark ages, but we're still old Windows folk. We still use DirectX and all that kind of stuff. We know Linux is the future, but we're still, our expertise is still back in the dark ages and being a bit,
The crux of the matter
the point is, it's like, okay, Well, let's leave that with us. They've come back. Here we are. Here's a possible solution to, as you say, reduce that, the friction into moving from, your title, which you've already worked on, from a DirectX thing, and get it through the Vulkan and come out here straight onto Stadia, as it were, with a few tweaks.
Yeah, I think the crux of the matter for me is you don't development now no longer has to. I think it's from later in the year has to work using Stadia specific dev kits or APIs unless they're using Stadia specific features.
Yeah.
So and and also, but a lot of the features that they have developed as well, like this, as I understand it, also mean that it can work with the bespoke engines. So
it's more of a small. By the sounds of it, from what I think, it's more of a smaller plugin rather than an entire. Oh, you have to develop using this software.
Yeah. So whilst we always knew that Unity and Stadia working together to make sure that there were tools to sort of export your product from out of Unity into Stadia. Unreal have always said that they will continue to support Stadia right from the get-go, stuff like that. So, but now the fact that Stadia are also developing tools for all those other engines, which we've seen, have done really good jobs, whether it's the Snowdrop engine and Division 2, or the Frostbite and the Jedi and FIFA and Madden and all that kind of stuff. So that they may be versions of this at work. Or early examples of or certainly lessons they would have learned from porting those things.
Yeah, it was a great couple of videos to put out. It was very, very interesting to kind of do a deeper kind of behind, because it is kind of, for us as gamers, as the consumer, it is a very much a peek behind the curtain to see what's going on. And I think future roadmap, the kind of fervor around Stadia this past week or two, thanks to this and then some other announcements, I think it's really just kind of ticked people over and realizing that it's not going anywhere. It's got games dated well into 2023 now, and I think it's all the narrative from my perspective. It seems to be having a bit of an upward swing at the moment, and I'm quite enjoying it.
I mean, it became part of the conversation.
Yeah.
With the gaming conversation, it was covered a lot in all the gaming press, and they're going to kind of have their.
Don't forget,
write these
Clive,
things
back in February though, Stadia closed, Stadia games.
Exactly. Like how long ago? Okay, you once punched that kid. Oh God, I know it was a long time ago. That kind of, But the conversation has moved to, wow, look at these things that Stadia are trying, to do to encourage, developers to bring their games, and it's like I said, it's like a probably four-pronged strategy. This isn't just one. I said before, it's not just a strategy based on the tech. It's not a strategy just based on the marketing. This is a strategy based on all four prongs.
It's an actual strategy, where in the past sometimes it felt like they were directionless.
We weren't aware of what they were doing so much, and so your imaginations. But we've seen them planting the seeds. So we're not going to. Those seeds aren't going to bear fruit until next year or whatever, and we probably won't even notice.
Exactly. But speaking of planting fruit as well, stuff that's not bearing fruit anytime soon, moving into our second story of the week, bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, Rainbow Six Extraction and Riders Republic have been delayed. So just before we went live, we got that. We just managed to squeeze into the news this week, just purely because we were recording a little bit earlier this week, as seems to be the trend right now. We almost missed the FIFA news last week. We got it in there. We almost missed this news. Not that it's great news, but it's more delays from Ubisoft, which is a bit of a shame considering we only got the dates locked in on them at the Ubisoft Forward event at E3, which seems mere weeks ago. Well, it was mere weeks ago at this point. We've got Ubisoft have delayed them, so just reading from their press statement. Ubisoft have said, our ambition with Rainbow Six Extraction is to deliver a fully fledged AAA experience that changes the way you play and think about cooperative games, etc. They're going about the features and stuff. And regarding Riders Republic, to ensure we can deliver the best game for all players, we made the tough decision to delay our release date again. Riders Republic moving from September 2nd, my birthday, so no birthday presents for me. It's moving back to October 28th. Is that either of your birthdays by any chance, gents?
Nope.
Yeah, it is actually.
Is it? Oh, what a coincidence.
31st.
And then Rainbow Six Siege, Rainbow Six Extraction, they've not originally give a date, but they have said January 2022. So turn of the year, pushed back out of this calendar year, which again is great because that means Stadia is going to exist next year if the game's coming. So that's locked in. Probably don't need to spend much time on this one. Obviously, for me, the biggest thing, unfortunately, is that's two big tentpole AAA games that fall out of Stadia's library for the back end of this year. And I don't know how you feel, Richie, about it, but that we were looking forward to Extraction as like our big game in that end.
I know Tom was looking forward to Riders Republic as well. He was very excited for that, so he's probably a bit disappointed. But
and then this kind of flips it back to what else is there to fill that void? A
bad game's always bad. But I'd much rather wait for a better game than have a worse game rushed out just to get it out.
Yeah. And again, we don't know what the impacts of COVID have been, and we've seen it across the industry. It's everyone expected
Far
to happen.
Cry 6 was delayed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
I think everything has at some point.
Yeah, but Ubisoft wise, so I think, I think Stadia will feel these things slightly more acutely than, say, PlayStation or Xbox, whatever, because of the as you say, the big tentpole releases that they have focused on. But I think they'll feel it less acutely than, say, they did in 2020, when Doom Eternal was delayed, Cyberpunk was delayed, although in the long run it ended up benefiting.
Doom Eternal was meant to be a launch game for Stadia.
And I think that had a big impact. Yeah, but I think it won't really have the same impact that those early titles did back in the early part of 2020, when clearly if those games of Doom Eternal and Cyberpunk had come out when they were meant to come out, you've nice big releases spread evenly across from launch through to the rest of 2020, and it would have looked nice. As it turned out, Cyberpunk worked out quite well in the long run, with coming out day and day in the end because of the delays. But I think it is a real shame, but I think there's still big enough games in between. We've got FIFA. What, FIFA's September, is it, or October?
October 1st.
Beginning of October. Although if you get the Ultimate Edition, it's the end of September.
EA's things.
So there are still big titles, but it's two big titles. Yeah,
and obviously we don't know what other announcements are like that's still in the works that might get announced between now and then. And if anything, for Ubisoft, looking at the two titles, that they're not going to be, they never were going to be kind of Call of Duty numbers, FIFA numbers anyway. So I think actually pushing them back a little bit later might benefit them.
Well, what happens is when they delay, they don't just say, "Well, when will it be finished? We'll put it out then." They've got to go, when's the next big window, the release window. So they might finish it before then, but it's just like, okay, do we want to go out, so October, you're beginning to come in. So that's the next big.
They always have the opportunity, though, if they finish it early and they expect it to pull it forward. If they think there's a chance, it's done, there's a chance to launch now, let's go for it.
Just that they have to look around to see what else is launching. That's the thing, what I'm saying about the release windows, and sort of decide, when's the next big window of opportunity. It's like movies, isn't it? It's like
So two games not coming, big games, obviously disappointing for some, I'm sure, but like Richie alluded to, I'd rather they spent the time, made sure it was a fantastic game, and it just gets the love it deserves when they both come out. So we'll keep our eyes
especially
peeled.
the Rainbow, because Rainbow Six Siege is I think it
plays beautifully
and plays great on Stadia. So
I think both these games are going to be absolutely fine when they do come out.
Oh yeah, undoubtedly. And you've got Ubisoft Plus if you need to. Third story of the week then, folks, is it's an interesting one, a bit of a segue away from games and stuff, but more into the industry as a whole. We've got Steam came out this past week and announced a Steam Deck handheld gaming PC console Nintendo Switch hybrid kind of thing, and I'm just a little confused by it. I was really interested to get your takes, and probably more on just how it stacks up against Stadia, because I know, Richie, on this show we've spoke many times about just the barrier to entry of gaming, and obviously there's a market, the games industry is getting bigger year on year, so no one has to lose footing for other companies to come into it. But yeah, so it looks like a Nintendo Switch, essentially. It's got the power of a PC inside it. It plays games from your Steam library or Epic Game library. The entry model is priced at £349 for a 64 gig model, which I don't think that could even fit Doom Eternal on. Now I'm thinking about it out loud. But
yeah, it's quite small.
This is one where I saw it and I just thought the amount of brilliance I've got out of Stadia and portability out of Stadia, I couldn't picture myself ever thinking to even look twice at one of these things. I'm sure there's a market for it, but is this basically my question? And Clive, I'll throw it over to you. Is this too late? This kind of console hybrid thing?
So, look, there's clearly a market for it. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter respond, "Oh, I can't wait to get it," all of that. But so this is my point of view, my user case. My first reaction was, why? Like, what? Why? I don't want another device. Not interested in having another device. To me, what? And then that device is going to be dated within a couple of years. If you're into every little gadget that ever comes out, and you're quite happy to have a pile of electronics sitting in the back of your garage after time. I've got an Xbox S, not a Series S, sitting here, redundant. I don't know what to do with it. It doesn't get used. You know what I mean? It's out of date now. It's because I've got an Xbox Series S and an Xbox X, not an Xbox One X, but an Xbox X there, which is arguably out of date as well. So it's just, to me, in a way, the equivalent. I thought about it, and I understand that some people love that kind of stuff. And if you are a PC gamer with a massive Steam library already, and you're into gadgets, a lot of ands here. Yeah. It's quite niche, and yeah, you're going to love it, But to me, it's like, why do you need? Why? It's the first thing. Why do this? It seemed to me it's a retro. To me, it seemed like a 20th century concept. It seems like a retrograde concept. To me, it's like somebody bringing out an MP3 player.
Yeah,
that's the equivalent. It's like, what? Yeah, you can store all your music and play all the music you've ever bought and stored.
But
why would I want that? All my music I can get on a better screen.
Yeah,
I've seen.
I don't understand. Like, surely you want everything to be able to play everything on the devices you already own. That's in my head. That's how. But it's my personal user case. I get that some people can't wait to have another gadget, but for me, it was just. To me, it's like, what? Who wants another piece of hardware?
Yeah, you know what? You know who this gadget is for? This is for people who like the idea of like a Nintendo Switch or a PC gamers who want to be able to game on the move and haven't discovered that cloud gaming already exists.
Yeah,
I think they'd be much better off.
Niche. That's what I'm saying.
Much better off ripping out most of the hardware and just making capable streaming cloud games put your investment into a cloud Steam, put your investment into a cloud gaming service.
Yeah, that was my go-to.
That would be an absolute killer if Valve did that.
That's what I think. I think
Steam in the cloud, and then you get a gadget like this instead of being a $399 entry, you have it $150 entry. Oh yeah, and you can play all your cloud games. Here's a dedicated device for it.
Or you
Kishi, just buy Kishi.
Yeah,
use your phone.
With it, like looking at the specs, like they are quite impressive for the tech it is, like the processor, the input. There's a few things that have me concerned. Battery life 2 to 8 hours. If you've got it on the move, that's you hanging around near a battery pack or something a little bit. But yeah, screen resolution, like you said, people's mobile phones are probably a little bit better.
64 gig storage in the base version is just not enough. There's no way you can realistically use that as a gaming device.
It does take a micro SD slot. But
you can have one game at best with that. So you're looking, it's more for
like the Switch
59 as a true entry level. The upgradable storage is micro SD, and I'm not convinced micro SD will be that good for gaming.
I tell you, years ago, like I sort of had my own sort of consultancy, and I was talking with a TV company and they're saying, well, where do you think the future might be? And I was thinking, I could see where people, like at the moment you get your DVD, you go and buy a DVD. I can see where you get your films on a SD stick. That'll be the future, because I hadn't quite clocked onto. This is before streaming, Yeah. And that would have been such a bad thing to do, because you would have invested in getting the rights for memory sticks, whatever, to show movies, and within 2 years later, after that moment, was the beginning of the streaming world,
I think I had
And
some
so
thought.
straight
I thought
away, it would have made
it'd be cool to just get a USB stick,
redundant.
just plug it in the side of your TV, and then there's the movie turns up.
Yeah.
But
But already, when the idea came, it was almost on the verge of being out of date. Like literally round the corner at that time was the beginning, the nascent
Netflix were ramping up.
part of streaming. Yeah, so
You need to be
it's
10,
weird
10
because
steps ahead.
when BBC iPlayer launched, and BBC iPlayer at the time was considered the best, probably the flagship version of that streaming technology. Nobody could really touch it at the time. ITV still can't touch it in terms of the technology. Netflix is up there, and the other people are now. But at the time, it was the standard in terms of streaming tech that kind of other people borrowed to kind of for their streaming techs and Netflix and stuff like that. But the interesting about iPlayer when it was in development at the BBC is it was right up till launch. Concept was going to be that you would download the programs and then you watch them. And it was only at the last minute somebody decided, actually, I think it would be better if we allow people to access them direct, like stream them. And I look back now and I just think that decision was massive. Because you would have to then, if you'd gone straight to the download model, you would have then had to play catch up with the streaming, which becomes the dominant model. Now you have the streaming and download to watch later, but that's something slightly different. If you'd gone with just downloading it and then you're waiting around to whereas, like we're talking about downloading games, it's like, okay, I'm going to watch, I'm going to watch Line of Duty in a minute. I'm just going to download it, Whereas now you literally, and it was just interesting that a decision was made somewhere within the BBC at the last minute to actually change the model to streaming. And it is the model that then we saw with Netflix and everything else and so on and so on.
It's just obviously the ease of access and the use. Another point I want to bring with this particular device as well is before we move on is the weight. I don't know if you guys are seeing it. It's almost double the weight of the standard Switch. Which if for a handheld device, I don't know about you guys, even as an adult, holding that for a prolonged period of time is not going to work.
You need a special bag for it, right? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? If you need to,
you need good arms. If you need
triceps. If you need a special bag to carry your device around with your other devices,
well,
that to me straight away,
thing for me, Chris,
discounts it.
Chris, earlier you mentioned the specs being quite good. I actually kind of disagree. It's an 800p screen. So it's round about, it's not a 16:9, 16:10, so it's equivalent of 720p. But with the size of the screen, that's probably perfectly usable. But bear in mind, this is a 2K screen, and that's what it's going up against. It only does max 60 hertz refresh rate, which is basically the same as what you can get in Stadia. There's no HDR, there's no, there's no ray tracing. If you're using GeForce Now, you can get both. I can get both of them on my phone. So it's getting left behind by my phone with GeForce now.
Well, yeah, this is kind of, I think the biggest thing for me was the big push again. They've got like kind of Control as one of the main front and centre games, and then Doom Eternal. I can't help but look at it and just think, Control's coming to Stadia this summer. Doom Eternal's already there.
Control is a tart.
It sells itself. 505 games. It just do what you want with us. We're happy to go on every poster.
Luna.
Control's a good example.
Xbox.
I think Control isn't GeForce Now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I can almost guarantee your performance with Control on GeForce Now on your phone will be better than Control using this PC version through this.
And it'll still run in 5 years when your device is 5-year-old and you're using it on your new mobile phone, but you've got this old Steam Deck sat there 5 years on, the battery life is kaput, your memory storage you still have to delete things, and there's a Steam Deck 2 out, and it's another £300-400 they're asking for, whereas you're still playing Control 5 or whatever point we're at by then, the multiplayer game, and it's honestly like Clive you were saying, it seems almost just a bit behind the times.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just us three are in this little silo of cloud gaming where we just see how convenient everything can be without the price of entry, and it runs the same games. Like, great if you've got a Steam library, but the masses don't. I don't.
Yeah, no, I don't. It has an appeal, as I say. There is, but I think, and I read this other, I forget his name now, but he's a sort of correspondent for Asia Pacific games and stuff on Twitter. I see him all the time, and he had exactly the same thoughts as I did. Is that the why it to him, it didn't make sense because cloud gaming is only going to ever increase. It's only going to get better. 5G, and I see some people go, yeah, well, cloud gaming is not, infrastructure's not ready, in America for cloud gaming. Like, well, if you wait for it to be 100% perfect, it ain't ever going to be ready, and it takes time. Really. No, and it takes time to invest. So you need to be already up and running when they catch up. And so there's a niche appeal. I think it's to the sort of gadget PC, gadget boys who love PC and have a massive Steam library. But that's quite a lot of niches to combine.
It's like the Steam controller. It's something that's going to end up on someone's shelf and never be used.
Yeah.
I mean,
I had a friend that years ago at work used to buy every single gadget that came out, whatever it was. And I would say you should start a museum because
I'd love to be able to afford to do that.
Just have everything.
Oh, he was pretty well off, so because everything came out.
Yeah, so we'll put a pin in that one. But tech aside, like you said, everyone will buy something. Nintendo doing those little Game Gear things where you get one game on an LCD screen. It's like we had those as kids, but again now they're collectible valuables. I think Zelda are doing one for. Is it Skyward Sword? They're doing like the specific device that just plays that one game. So you're spending £80-90 on a single device game, but that's for another day. Next story.
Nintendo weird.
Yeah, well, they do their own thing. They make millions. But next story of the week, moving back to games, away from hardware to software. Battlefield 2042 would appear, Richie, we have our predictions for the upcoming EA Play event this Thursday, which we will be covering on the channel. Battlefield 2042, which we'd hoped was going to be one of those EA titles that we were promised. We know FIFA 22 is coming now, so that's our 5, but that doesn't deny that more may come. It looks like it's coming with crossplay, which is fantastic news for those on PC, PS5, Xbox S and S. However, their community manager did clarify over on Twitter. I'll just get his name because I've lost it because I've also
Evan Johnson.
Evan Johnson, who was the community manager at Kevin Johnson. Sorry, EA Dice replied to someone from the Stadia community and said that there are no plans outside of the announced platform. So that, to me, unless it's going to be a stealth surprise with the FIFA news lining up as the 5th game, and now this. It seems like
you're not going to say your community manager's not going to say something like that and then your surprise drop.
Oh yeah,
it would have made more sense for them not to. If they're going to stealth drop it, you wouldn't have said anything.
Yeah. So crossplay, great news. Just what Stadia could have benefited from.
Yeah.
But it looks like we're not getting it. Which again, we go back to the Ubisoft news. 2 big tentpole games gone from the back end of this year. This could have been a little saving grace in there. Doesn't look like we're getting it, unfortunately, gents. So.
I never, to be honest, I never expected to see Battlefield on Stadia.
I didn't, but I was hoping because I thought it would have been fantastic.
Obviously, it would be, I mean, there's not to deny it would be bonkers.
Mm-hmm. It feels
amazing
if
it came out.
Stadia doesn't have that
with crossplay
Battlefield style shooter. It just
imagine that. We know how good Rainbow Six Siege runs, and the crossplay works on that really well. And imagine. Yeah, imagine if you could play Battlefield and it ran as well. And we know that EA, their engines, I don't know if Battlefield's on the same engine, but, it would be awesome. But Battlefield, to me, is a sort of a service as a game type thing. And I don't think that, we know that the user base isn't really big enough to justify that. I'm sure Stadia would love it, They're not like... No, there's nobody not in their office going...
We don't want that game.
We don't want Battlefield. No.
Yeah.
EA ringing them up. Do you want Battlefield? Nah, not interested. That ain't happening.
This is
they really want
thing.
it. But it's a numbers thing. And you just have to... That's not a slight on Stadia. Stadia's a baby. We said it. Mm-hmm. It's growing... in the growing phase, and you're not going to get a game like Battlefield on Stadia just yet. That's, in the same way, necessarily not going to get Fortnite on there because they've said, well, we already service, 7 or 8 different platforms.
Yeah.
And the scale of that in terms of the return on their investment, you're even find with like big companies, they'll have if they're going to make an investment, they'll have a minimum return on that investment.
Yeah.
And that minimum on a massive company is millions.
Mm-hmm.
So if that return on investment isn't going to make them millions, they're not even getting out of bed. And right now, Stadia's not going to probably give them the return on the investment level that they expect, given their size. That someone like Epic or whatever, you're given their size, expect a game like FIFA or Madden is like is a sort of a definitely a sort of a purchase price game that loads of people sort of play and doesn't have to be supported in quite the same way of Battlefield, which is an ongoing kind of big kind of support required game. So that's why I never really expected it. Of course, it would knock it out the window if it was. But yeah, so I'm not sort of disappointed in that way. I was more, I would just been blown away if it would have been up on Stadia. The Stadia community would have had a meltdown.
Yeah, absolutely. Following on from that, we've also got news that there will be no Star Wars at EA Play. So we theorised in last week's SideQuest that we may have seen Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2, which, again, don't know what your thoughts are on it, Clive, but we're under the impression that as we start getting these games, I'd like to go in with good faith that we will see the sequels to these titles. I would be very disappointed if we didn't see the second follow-up to this game come out.
I think Jedi, again, so Jedi Fallen's a big popular, what I call purchase title. And, I think it did quite well, probably, for, we don't know the facts, but I get a sense it did quite well. There's a good response to it, certainly anecdotally, and you see in the community, there's a reasonably good response to it. So I think if there was a sequel, I'd like to think that's the sort of game that probably is much more of a straightforward to sort of port and support it because especially a story,
it's in and out, isn't it?
Campaign driven thing. Once you do there's very little service level required, maybe some early updates, but then you're done.
Yeah,
not having necessarily add content.
Jedi Fallen Order is one of them games that Star Wars, that Venn diagram crossover between gamers and Star Wars fans have been crawling out for a long time. We want a very good, highly polished, single-player, story-driven Star Wars game. And we got it. It was awesome. Give us a second, please.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's where
one I could see. I could see that definitely if there is a Jedi Fallen.
Well, that's where Stadia kind of teeters on the edge with. The longer it goes on and we don't start to get follow-ups to things, and this is where our SideQuest episode comes in this week, Richie. We're going to talk about missing franchise and annualized franchises that kind of were just not on the radar for this year. And how many years or how many investment does that go on until these casual gamers revert back to what they knew before, because there's that reliability that it's coming out. So the Star Wars news then in summary is that EA Star Wars account have clearly said we won't be showing off any new Star Wars games at EA Play Live on July 22nd, but look out for celebrating next year when we share our vision for a galaxy far, far away. So I like they're setting their expectations. They've given us FIFA ahead of time. They've said Star Wars ain't going to be there. I prefer going into a conference knowing that I'm not getting my hopes. We've all seen what happens when audiences get their hopes up for these virtual press conferences, and how quick the parachute cord can fail if they're jumping out without that balloon to fall on at the end. So no Star Wars, no Battlefield, evidently. And the next news story of the week, we're also not going to see Resident Evil Reverse for a while as well, because that's also been delayed. It's kind of a week of big dev news, lots of delays, and we knew it was supposed to be coming part and parcel with RE Village. Fantastic game, full playthrough is up on our channel. It's just curious how this little kind of mini standalone game that came with the purchase, the delay kind of separates it so much from Village. It's almost becoming its own thing.
Forget about it. I forgot. Yeah, I forgot about it. I've got this game coming. So I completely sort of forget.
2022. The second time it's actually been delayed.
Yeah,
as well.
It is. It was supposed to be at launch. So PvP title, third-person shooter. Don't know what the game modes really are yet, but in my mind, I'm just thinking now this is going to come out with whatever next year's Resident Evil looks like. If we get a RE4 remake, is it starting to step on its own toes now with launching? So I'd guess maybe February time.
It could be something to whet people's appetite in preparation for another Resident Evil game early next year. If this drops in January and maybe you get an April launch. Resident Evil's think this is really fun. Oh, there's a new game coming. It could work.
Yeah, it's just a bit of an odd one to think it's so far detached from the launch. That it's kind of like Spider-Man with Avengers. People bought Spider-Man on PlayStation to get bought Avengers on PlayStation to get Spider-Man exclusive. And we're coming up on its year anniversary nearly, and we don't even know when Spider-Man's coming out. People spent £60-70 on that game nearly a year ago for one particular character, and he ain't there
yet. Haven't got.
He's not even on the roadmap. He's somewhere in the future. We're getting Black Panther first, which we'll get onto in a bit. But so RE Reverse delayed until 2020. So it sounds like Q1 2020, guys. We're going to have a ton of stuff to play when the bag drops. Santa's been and gone. It's cold again. We're not used to this sweltering heat in the UK. But plenty to play. So if you've bought Village, mark that down in your calendar. Play it when it comes out. Did you play Village, Clive? Was horror up your street?
No, but I loved Resident Evil Village. It was really good, a real good, great ride. It looked amazing on Stadia. It was just really good. I mean, I actually hadn't played all the way through RE7 again with that, and that was my first. I played a really early Resident Evil version game, but it just felt, and it was like a retro version, so I played it recently, and it just felt so dated, obviously. So it was really nice to be able to play Resident Evil 7 on Pro, ready for anticipation of the kind of experience of Resident Evil Village, which I played all the way through. It was so engrossing and just such a good version.
Yeah, it was a great little marketing twist. Speaking of marketing twists, next story of the week, we got a new game announcement. No blog this week, as I mentioned, but our friends over at Stadia Source did pick up on a trailer dropping for a game I'd never even heard of prior to today. Pronunciation, I want to say, is it...
Threta. Threta. Yeah, it's Threta. So Brian at Nerf Report covered this game off some months ago.
So
he came across it.
To give people a summary then, so in early March this year, tech startup Prodigy Interactive released a trailer for the game. They've described and defined it as the Asian equivalent to God of War, aimed for a release date in 2020. It's been confirmed as coming to Stadia December 17th. So that's definitely one in the bag. And speaking of the team, it's a narrative-driven fantasy adventure game that finds inspiration from Sri Lankan mythologies and historical characters. Narrative-driven game, startup company, not had any titles out prior yet, but it looks like it's getting a ton of investment, and they're bidding themselves to be the first AAA Asian title. So big shoulders, I guess, to stand on, giving themselves AAA.
There's a lot of boasting there. And they're saying a lot, but not showing a lot. And for a game coming out this year, I'm currently in the skeptical. However, I'm intrigued. If they pull off what they say, this could be awesome.
Yeah, to add a little bit more to that before you go, Clive, this is also part one of a trilogy they have planned. This is
why I'm skeptical.
This is like big thing. I've got, is it Black Wuhang, whatever that, the Chinese studio? Very big vibes from that. Probably just because of the art style and the mythology. But, what do you think?
Yeah, so Brian, as I say, on the Nerf Report a few months ago, I think dedicated a whole program to this, or a big chunk of his Nerf Report to this, and from that I went off and kind of searched, did a bit of research into them because I was intrigued, and I'd mentioned it on, following the Nerf Report, mentioned a little piece on the Stadium Monday Night Chat at the time, and there's quite a sort of development industry, games industry in Sri Lanka. And so there's a lot of sort of talk and hype around this, and as you say, it's got that Black Wu-Tang, what was it called?
Wu-Tang Clan. Black Myth Wukong.
That's it. So I call it Monkey because it's based on the legend of Monkey.
It's based on Journey to the West, isn't it?
Yeah. So So yeah, it's got that in terms of it's got that sort of high end PC story driven look. With great graphics, but as you said earlier, there's a lot of cinematics.
Yeah,
it looks really good, but cinematics are your pitching document.
It's easy to oversell cinematics.
Yeah, you want
I want to see some actual gameplay footage.
If I'm investing in development, I want to say, okay, I want to see a proof of concept. A design level, please. And then that's when you make your decision, or you sort of put in some development money just to say, okay, do a level, because you want to see whether their engine and tech can deliver the vision. But from a cutscene point of view, yeah, it looks really good and exciting, and it's good to see, drawing on those Sri Lankan myths and legends and stuff, and sort of bringing something new to the table, which is really exciting because
Yeah, I think conceptually it seems fantastic. Seems very much something I would actually want to play.
Yeah,
it's the level of boasting they're doing before showing anything that gets me a bit skeptical. It's like you're seeing
it's like an investment doc, isn't it? Really,
you're seeing a lot of things, but you're not showing me anything. So. I'm going to keep an eye on what you're doing in hopes that what you say, you can actually hold yourself, especially when they're getting pitched up. Oh, it's the Asian God of War. That's a huge claim. God of War is arguably one of the greatest games of all time.
Big boots
that's the level
to fill.
Yeah, pitched that. Yeah.
But stranger things have happened, right? I'm intrigued by it. Similar to you two, I don't.
Stadia logos at the end,
exactly.
But even then, you don't know whether they just stuck it on there. To be honest,
I mean that's just like reverse logo gate, isn't it? You get it on random games you've never heard of, but not on the ones you want.
Well, see the logo on the trailer, everyone will go, "Oh my god, it's coming to Stadia," and then Stadia guys going, "Is it? We're gonna have to get this now."
yeah, exactly.
Stadia Makers program. Hit me up. We put the logo on.
What's interesting is that they've actually put so it's moved on since Bryant covered it in terms of they've given it a date.
Yeah,
and the Stadia logo sort of disappeared from their early documentation, and now it's back on this bit with a date. So I'm slightly more. So things have moved on since it looked quite hopeful that it might get off the ground and might come to Stadia. I'm a bit more confident, although I'm still not, even though I've seen the logo, I'm still not like 100%. They just haven't. That's an aspirate still in the world of aspiration for them. They've just stuck everybody on there and hope that they can do the deals later. I don't know.
For all we know, they might have just watched the Games for Google for Games Developer Conference, saw that slice of the pie they're giving away with Pro, and went, guys. Get that logo back on that trailer, and then
get it back on the trailer.
So we'll keep our eyes on that one. 17th of December, so not long to wait realistically. Like we are well past the halfway point of the year now, and it will be upon us before we know it. Wrapping up for the show this week, couple little tiny news stories. Switching back over to Avengers. Speaking of God of War, actually, gents, God of War actor Christopher Judge, famed for doing the voice of Kratos in the 2018 remake reboot, will be voicing King T'Challa in Avengers' upcoming expansion for War of Wakanda. And they have a Square Enix Avengers War Table this Friday to go into a bit more depth. I, for one, am a big fan of the Avengers game. Richie, not so much. You play it, but not so much. Clive, what's your take on Avengers?
I've not played it because I sort of hear mixed results, but it's part of me thinking I do want to play it because I do like a good story-driven game. The story.
Single player, I think the single player is fantastic. The multiplayer leaves a lot to be desired.
Right. Yeah. If you went in just for the story.
Yeah. This is a massive DLC. This bit.
It's on sale.
The Black Panther one, I think.
It is. Yeah. So the Black Panther one.
I'll buy it if it's on sale.
You mean the game?
Yeah.
I think it is actually. I think it's £26 at the moment. But in terms of the title, this is the first proper expansion where it's a whole new area, whole new world, new characters, and it's all free. So just like Spider-Man on PlayStation, eventually, it just comes free. So it's a whole new area to explore, a whole new hub world. There is new story. They almost got caught out in the news. They kind of shot themselves in the foot. There's a couple of journalists picked up on it and said War for Wakanda expansion would run 25 hours. that was actually the total length of the main original campaign and all the DLC to this point, including Black Panther. So everyone got themselves super excited that this was like a 25-hour story
like
expansion.
A standalone game almost.
Yeah, almost. And weirdly enough, if they came out and announced there's a Black Panther game coming out next year, I would be hyped as shit for that stuff. But then now, because it's just this little DLC expansion, it's weird how internet works in games, and the hype levels like fluctuate based on what it is and what it will be. But yeah, so they had to come out and re-clarify that almost immediately as soon as the news dropped. For me though, Chris Judge's work with Kratos, amazing. Loved him in the Stargate series, so we just get to see more of him playing a very, very famous character on the upswing. Obviously, he mentioned in his interview he didn't want to step into the shoes of Chadwick Boseman after his unfortunate passing, but then apparently his children said, if you don't do it, we'll disown you. So he said, okay kids, I'll do it, I'll take it. And I think it's a great shout for them, and I think he does bring a bit of gravitas to the role, and hopefully some positive life back on this games as a service turn single player story. But we'll learn more about that come this Friday. And Richie, if you're down to jump in with me when Black Panther drops, we'll go back.
Yeah, is it
free?
Is it a free DLC?
All free.
Yeah, I'm in then.
They've said so day one, all the expansions are going to be free. All you have to pay for is cosmetics if you want it.
I mean, as I've said all along, is that I think the multiplayer leaves a lot to be desired because it doesn't really have any actual hooks.
Yeah.
But when I jump in and play with our community, I still have a good time. But then I don't think of it again until we get more DLC.
It's like games as a service, man. It's got those ups and downs and those quiet periods. But hopefully, again, they're going to learn as time comes. And maybe the guys over at PlayStation will see Spider-Man one day. Yeah. One day. Right, final story for the week, gents. I'm going to trim out some of the fat this week. We were going to talk about Stadia on PC. Lots of people kicking off that they don't get to play.
FIFA versions, the last gen version rather than the current next gen version
on PC.
So you're better off playing it on Stadia.
Via PC. Yeah, if you want to play it on PC, you can, and it has the next gen features. Yeah. So win-win. I suppose we should lament our losses as well. England in the Euros. We didn't touch on it. We covered it last week, but great game. Round of applause for the players. The supporters who weren't supporters, they can go stuff themselves, do whatever they want to do. They're not supporters, in my opinion. But that's a whole other conversation. You're probably fed up of seeing it on the news. But we'll go again at the World Cup in Qatar, whatever that looks like next Christmas. But So final story, something nice to end on.
Yeah.
Paw Patrol.
Yes.
The movie Adventure City Calls, rated for Stadia. I don't have any children. Clive, you do. I suspect they might be a bit old for Paw Patrol now.
They are. Although Oscar was massive into Paw Patrol.
Oh, so he might
a little
get
younger. No, at least he's because he went into hospital and his mum was saying, do you want me to bring Chase, which is the main character? Do you want me to bring, because he's got a plushie, And I was like, no.
Oh, it's not cool anymore.
Mum,
past that point.
She smuggled in a plushie Enderman in the end.
Oh,
from Minecraft
world.
I bought you an Enderman.
This might be something I jump in with my nephews.
Yeah, we've said it on last week's show, but the amount of games that have been rated that are towards that younger audience, we saw the Scratch.
They're all from
DreamWorks,
they're all from Outrun Games.
They've clearly got some kind of.
They deal with the Cartoon Networks and the Netflixes and stuff. Because I talked about it on the Stadia Monday Night Chat last week. Some games we know are coming, some are rumored to coming, and some will, and they're all from I think it's Outrun or Outright Games. Outright Games. So there's this one, there's Addams Family one, was it Jake and the something zombies or something or other.
Ben 10. There's the horse spirit game. There's the Scratch Nutty Adventure game.
And there's the Fast and Furious.
The Drift.
And the guy, so that hasn't. Somebody on Twitter said, "Is it coming out?" And he said, "We haven't anything announced yet, but not quite yet. But so watch this space." So effectively, it is coming out. They just can't officially announce it. So it was rumored it was, and so so it's interesting because and I did speculate. I'm not sure yet, but I could see a children's channel.
Yes.
Or at least, if not a children's channel you pay for, it just presents another category of games.
Category lists in the storefront where games for children.
Children's, yeah.
And that's,
I often see it on Twitter or on Reddit. People go, "What are good games for my little kids to play? I can just throw the tablet at them, and you know."
And when we go back to like barrier to entry, like how often do you see kids sat in prams now, literally with the parents' phone in front of them? We've got YouTube Kids, Stadia, YouTube stuff. It's barrier to entry, and the people these games are aimed at, like it's clearly not us, but that audience.
Kids would be a good idea. It's just like an offshoot of similar to like the family plan. You can just create a kids thing. So it's going through your main account, but he'll only have access to kids games.
Yeah, and
you could even just put like a wallet system, so you can just I've dropped 10 quid in your account every month. Yeah. To buy whatever game you want.
And at the end of the day, it's your audience that are playing these games will be your future audience in 10 years' time. I've always said that I'm a PlayStation gamer through and through, and I will always buy the next console because I've always had one. My parents got me one when I was a child.
Brand loyalty,
I got 2, got 3, and then as I started buying them myself and I grew into it, and it became my main hobby, as soon as they announce anything, I'm always going to think of them first. And that could be the same thing for, again, long game. We mentioned it right at the beginning of the show with the Dev Summit. 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Google ain't going anywhere. The internet ain't going anywhere. The infrastructure is only going to get better. We say it time and time again, 5G, 6G, Wi-Fi networks in entire cities. It's convenience. And
it's about, and we always talked about, about your entertainment hubs, whether you say it on a tablet, on your smart TV, on your phone, you have all the same entertainment services on there, your Netflix, your Amazon, on all those devices. And as you say, give it to you, go and watch Paw Patrol or whatever it is, becomes the glorified babysitter. And again, taking the TV example I mentioned at the beginning, it just, what do you want to do? Do you want to watch this? Do you want to play this? The choices are there. And I know we're going to talk about it today, but, the kind of Netflix starting up, you could see them having a load of children's games as part of their offering as well, for that very reason. It's about, having a hub for family entertainment, not the hardcore gamers and all that kind of stuff, but the casual gamer, the casual gaming family as just another level of entertainment. And children's category is a massive category within that.
Exactly, it's getting them off, weaning them nice and early on a cloud gaming. That's what you want to do, because all the other stuff we spoke about this show, little Timmy doesn't care about that. He doesn't have a clue about it. He doesn't know about the business and the slice of the pie developers are getting. He doesn't know. That's why you come here to watch the Sounds of Stadia podcast, where me, Richie, Tom, and sometimes some lovely special guests like Mr. Clive Illenden as well join us to round up all the gaming and Stadia news in depth for your discussion and viewing and listening pleasure wherever you watch this show, whether it be here at youtube.com/Sounds of Stadia or on podcast services up there in the digital cloud. This episode, of course, goes live every Monday, and if you want to support the channel a little bit more, you can click join below. From as little as 99p, you can get new badges, new stickers next to your names, exclusive early access to our episode of SideQuest, where this week, Richie, we go to discuss...
We are talking about annualized franchises and some of them that have went missing on Stadia.
Missing in action. Again, we're going to go investigate that, so you can catch that up to 6 days early if you join below on the membership channel. But more importantly, interesting position we're in, Clive, as we wrap up the show. You, sir, have a live Monday night chat show that goes live the night time when this show goes live on the Monday morning. Yes. So if you're listening to this now, what should they do after they've listened to this podcast and they've had their day at work, they've gone about their business, they're sitting back on a Monday night thinking, I've got nothing to do. My Disney Plus doesn't work, Netflix doesn't work. Where should they go, Clive?
Even if it works, you should still go here.
Yeah.
Stadia, Monday night chat, 10 p.m. UK time. The show is live, ladies and gentlemen. It's live over on YouTube /Clive Illenden. And I'll be discussing many of the similar things, going into depth on some of these things and having an opinion. And so always well worth it. So yeah, check that out, 10 p.m. UK time, Stadia Monday Night Chat.
Beautiful stuff. And just to mention, Clive, if you ever wonder why we're never in your chat, me and Richie play football Monday nights with our friends, and we have done so for many, many years now. So if you're ever looking thinking, where are those three? Well, I don't know what Tom does on a Monday night. He has no excuse. But we are usually just getting home and having a shower and stuff. So I have to watch it on demand, which is a thing you can do with YouTube. So
Yeah,
wonderful
yeah.
stuff.
I tend to be a lurker in other people's shows as well, so
Yeah,
I'll look
yeah,
up shows and
yeah,
I'll comment on.
yeah.
It's back to
It's
time.
always I just put things on in the background while I'm gaming.
Podcasts, the fantastic.
That's a great thing
podcast.
of these shows. You can have them just, you know,
Yeah,
do
exactly.
something else while you're listening, you know, and then
Watch,
pick. Oh, I've got something to say, you know, and then just add it, you know.
Wonderful. And if they want to find you on Twitter, Clive, is it just
At Clive Illenden, yeah.
wonderful stuff? Richie?
At Richie C89.
Fantastic. I'm at CyberChris2077. Thank you very much for your time today, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to click like, subscribe, do all that magic that you do. Thank you very, very much to everyone who's watched, tuned in. And I think the only thing I missed for the whole episode, if you're still here, Phil McGrath, you're a legend. You joined our membership program. I was supposed to shout you out like an hour and a half ago. But if you're still here at the end, you are a true member. Thank you very much. We've been Sounds of Stadia with special guest Clive Illenden. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great week, everyone. Game on.